Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Coursettra.com. Today I'm really excited because we're going to start learning something new, and that is Ionic-cli. So if you've been following my channel for any length of time, especially within the last few months, you'll know we've been focusing on Angular 2 development. So why would we start shifting emphasis to Ionic 2? Well, simply put, Ionic 2 is built on top of Angular 2, and it allows you to add native mobile functionality to your apps. It is a hybrid app development framework. And so what hybrid app development framework means is simply, on one hand, you're able to use HTML, CSS, and Angular 2 to develop apps. But on the other hand, it also allows you to add native app mobile functionality and also apps that are browsable and downloadable in app stores, such as on iOS and Windows and Android. All right, so this is the very first video that's a part of this free course series that I'm releasing at Coursettra.com and this YouTube channel. And within the next day or two, I'm going to be releasing the next lesson video as well. So make sure you check up at Coursettra.com for this course. I'll link it here in the YouTube description. So let's go ahead and get started with installation and project setup. All right, so you want to make sure you hop into your console of choice. Mine is Commander, and we want to type in node-v and npm-v to make sure that we have Node.js and Node Package Manager installed, because these are prerequisites that you need before you can install Ionic 2. Now, if you don't, you want to head on over to this URL right here, nodejs.org. This will take you to the home, and then we can click Downloads. And then depending on which operating system you're using, Windows or Mac, go ahead and install it, and then just go through the standard installation all the way through. It will automatically include Node Package Manager during the installation process. So once you have that, go ahead and reload your console here, and then you can run these two commands and it should give you a version number. Okay, so next step, we need to install both Ionic and Cordova. Now the way we do that, we'll type in npm install -g for global. This means we'll only have to install it once on our machine, and then Ionic and Cordova. Then you hit enter, and it will take a while to install these. I've already installed them, so I'm not going to run this command. So go ahead and install those if you have not yet installed them. Now, once you're complete, now we can start our very first Ionic 2 project with the Ionic command line interface. So the way we access that is through Ionic. And then if we hit enter, by the way, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it'll spit out some version information as well as available commands. And we could scroll up here and we'll see all of this stuff here. And also you can type in ionic-h or -help, and it will give you more specific information about each of these commands and their associated options. Okay, now again, to start an actual project, we'll type Ionic and then the start command. And then the next command it takes will be the name or the path of the project. So we'll name ours, in Campbell case, first project. And this will also create a folder depending on wherever you're currently at. In my case, I'm in my code folder and my users and Windows username. And then we can go ahead and type in blank. Now blank, this is optional. Ionic 2 allows you to choose from several different starter templates based on your project needs. So the other three options are tabs, if you want tabs right away installed, side menu, and tutorial, which kind of just helps you go along with a tutorial that they offer. Now me, I just like starting from scratch so we can understand how things are created, from the very basic elements. So we, of course, if we wanted to add tabs, we can do that manually, or a side menu and all that. And then we'll also designate the -- or -- v2 flag. And this will designate that this Ionic project will be based on version 2. Now, if it's left out or omitted, it will automatically install an Ionic 1 project, which you don't want because it's older. I'm not sure why they would require the v2 flag, but no big deal. Once you do that, hit enter. It does take a little bit of time to install, so I'm going to go ahead and pause. All right, so with any luck, you'll see this little message, your Ionic app is ready to go, yada, yada, yada. So let's go ahead and cd into that path we created. So cd first project. All right. And now if you want, you can serve your Ionic-2 app, which means just to build it and show us for the purpose of testing and development in the browser. So to do that, we'll simply type Ionic and serve. We'll hit enter, and momentarily it will launch our default browser with the project ready to go. And here we go. So we're at localhost 8100, which is the default port, and our basic Ionic blank template ready to go. So the Ionic serve command that we just ran, it does accept a number of options that you can add to that. So to view them all, you can type in ionic-h in the console, but I also kind of want to mention just some more of the notable options. You can designate through -- port. You know, if you want to change it from the default port of 8100 to something else, you can do that. You can also say no live reload, and that will turn off the live reload feature, which is something where if you save designated file when you're developing, it will automatically refresh a browser, which is a handy option, so I wouldn't use that. We can also designate -- browser, and that allows you to specify which browser to use, such as Safari, Firefox, or Chrome. And then also you can use -lab or -l. And this is a great feature because it allows you to view the app on simulated mobile platforms and screen sizes even simultaneously. So let's try that out. Let's exit out of here by hitting Control-C. We'll hit Y for yes. And I'm going to type in Ionic serve just as last time, except this time I'm going to add -l. So give it a moment to run here. And there we go. So now you can see it's kind of automatically has us set in this sort of emulated phone view, and we can come over here for platforms. We can see iPhone is toggled on. We can also choose Android and Windows as well. Now let me just zoom out here to 100% again, and now we can see all three devices here, which is really handy for the purpose of development. And then on a final note, I just wanted to do a real quick overview of what the project and folder structure looks like for an Ionic-2 project that was generated with the command line interface. So as we could see, typical to a Angular 2 project, we see, in the root folder, we have a package.json file. We also have a tsconfig. We have node modules up here. And we also have a source folder. Now, this is where the bulk of your work, the vast majority of your work will take place in. We also have that standard app folder along with our app.component.ts. As you can see, it's very similar. In fact, it's exactly the same as your standard Angular 2 project for a component. We have our HTML, we have our module. One thing that's slightly different is that we do have, instead of a CSS file, we have a Sass file. And that's because by default, when we start a project with the Ionic command line interface, it will use and default to Sass instead of just CSS. Now, if you're not familiar with Sass, it basically allows you to create variables in your CSS along with mixins and functions and all this other handy stuff that allows you to create essentially dynamic CSS. Also, we have assets here. And one thing that's a little slightly different is we have a pages folder. And this is where all of your different screens will go that's associated with your app. All right. And then we also have a theme folder down here where we can do customizations and all of that stuff. So all in all, it's not very different in terms of your folder structure and your project structure when compared to just starting up a regular Angular 2 app. All right, so hopefully you were able to get through that without any issues. And in the next lesson, we're going to focus on Ionic 2 components. I'll see you then.